It's a big deal. Finland was neutral during the Cold War. And after Putin invaded Ukraine, the Finns relooked at their security and they decided that they have a bad neighbor to the east. And they remembered, they had never forgotten, that the Soviet Union had attacked them and they had to fight for their lives to keep their country independent. So when they saw Putin attacking another neighbor, they said, nope, we're not going down this road. We're going to join with the United States and the other NATO countries. It's a good day for us, a good day for Finland, and a bad day for Vladimir Putin.
We're talking with Ambassador Daniel Freed. Ambassador, you have served the U.S. as a diplomat for many years, and you served overseas in Europe, I believe in Poland and some other places as well, and distinguished yourself on many occasions by just being able to understand what was going on during the Cold War and after the Cold War, and how the problem that Russia and the former Soviet Union created for the rest of Europe, how it actually worked, what the risks were and what the troubles were. So I'm sure that you have some significant understanding of how big and how important it is today, now that Finland has become a part of NATO. Would you share some of your wisdom with us?
You're right. It's a big deal. Finland was neutral during the Cold War. We were cautious about the Soviet Union. But now they've joined the European Union, and after Putin invaded Ukraine, the Finns relooked at their security and they decided that they have a bad neighbor to the east. And they remembered, they had never forgotten, that the Soviet Union had attacked them and they had to fight for their lives to keep their country independent. So when they saw Putin attacking another neighbor, they said, nope, we're not going down this road. We're going to join with the United States and the other NATO countries. And today they became the 31st NATO member. It's a good day for us, a good day for Finland, and a bad day for Vladimir Putin.
So talk a little bit about why this is such a bad day for Vladimir Putin in terms of the geography here. It changes significantly for Russia in terms of, how big Finland is and how much of its border it covers. Talk a little bit about that for us, sir.
800 miles of Finnish-Russian border in the far north. There's not much there. It's mostly forest. But the Finns understand that Russia is an aggressor, and as long as Putin is president, the Russians could get ideas. So the Finns have now signed up with NATO. It's a bad news day for Putin because he invaded Ukraine so he could extend Russia's domination over its former empire. And look what's happened. He hasn't conquered Ukraine. He may never conquer it. In fact, he is unlikely to conquer it. He may lose this war. And now a country that was not even thinking about joining NATO has actually joined. Putin is not much of a genius. He has driven Russian interests into the ground, all for the sake of his vanity and his sense that he wants to be an empire builder. But it's not a good day for them.
So what is Finland capable of when it comes to their military? I know you're not a military expert, but I know you know a lot of things. But what does Finland bring to the table in terms of another military and certainly a country with a big border with Russia?
The Finns take the military seriously. NATO has a standard of 2% of GDP that NATO members are supposed to spend on their military, and Finland already meets that standard. If you go to Finland, and I've been there a lot, the Finns are very reserved. But when you talk to them about the Russians, it looks like everybody's grandfather fought in the Winter War, the war that Finland fought to keep its country independent. where it fought off the Soviets. They have no illusions about the Soviets, and they know that armies are needed to keep countries safe. So they take this seriously. They have a capable military, well equipped. They have the ability to put in many hundreds of thousands of troops into battle because they have a reserve system that they take seriously. They don't fool around. They don't dabble in the kind of illusion that everything will be nice if they're nice. They understand what militaries are for, and they will be a contributing member to the NATO alliance.
Ambassador, one of the things that I will most remember about you is I witnessed a speech that you made. I think this was in 2022. And this was at the Leonard Mary conference. And the line that I remember is a line where you quoted Dr. Martin Luther King. You said, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice." And that was such a profound moment for me, because of what that means. And when you extended it to this war in Ukraine, it meant even more. So how now does the entry of Finland into NATO impact the rest of NATO and impact everybody else who has been fighting this war on the side of NATO, or shall we say, participating from inside the group of NATO?
I remember that speech. And my point was that we're not going in circles, always repeating the same mistakes. Human beings can improve over time. We're flawed. We mess up. The United States messes up all the time. But if you look at us, we are tending to close the gap between our best principles and our reality. Oh, there's a big gap. Huh, a big one. But we are trying to close it. And we bring that sense to our role in the world, where we want to make the world a better place because we think that's in our national interest. And I think it is. NATO is an expression of that hope, that countries, democracies can get themselves together, not fight among themselves, and protect themselves. Finland has joined NATO because they share that vision. That's an American vision. Dr. Martin Luther King said it well, but he was drawing on and making the rest of America recall its best traditions rather than its worst practices. We can make the world a better place, and that's good for our American bottom line, right? A more peaceful world means we all live better. So that's the basis of American foreign policy at its best. I'm not saying we get it right all the time. God knows we don't. But we at least have a sense of what we should be doing in the world. And mostly, though not always, we try to live by that. And NATO is an expression of that. And Finland joins NATO because they understand what we're talking about. And they want to be part of this world, the free world.
Last thing I'll ask you, this war didn't start very well for Russia. I mean, it was very clear from the beginning, even though it took us a while to realize it, because many of us couldn't believe it, that they weren't the big, scary juggernaut that everybody thought they were. And they have been struggling ever since. Although what they've done is just inflicted some significant pain and suffering upon a lot of innocent people. So what does it take to turn people's thoughts or ideas in Moscow, in Russia, the elites or whoever it is that runs Russia? What's necessary to make them understand that this war will not likely work?
You're asking the important question. And the answer is they need to lose. And they need to know that they've lost. They need to know that Putin's war of imperial conquest is a failure. They need to understand that Ukraine, a democracy, is not weak, and that the West, Europe, the United States are not as weak as they thought. They need to lose. And then there needs to be a reckoning in Russia with Putinism and what he's done to them. He's isolated them. He's weakened their economy. He's brought death and destruction to Ukrainians, and there are a lot of dead Russians because of Putin. And they need to take this seriously. To get the Russians to change course, they need to lose and understand that they've lost. And the battle hangs in the balance. I don't know that Ukraine will win. They've done better than anybody expected, including the United States. At the beginning of the war, we didn't think they would do as well as they have, but they have done well. And the Russians have done poorly. But the battle hangs in the balance, and we need to help the Ukrainians succeed. They do that, and we all succeed.
Ambassador, thank you. I appreciate it again. And not to layer too much gratitude on you for your wisdom, but it is indeed that, and something that I think we all need to take a moment to listen to. So thank you for taking some time to share it with us today.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.